The Master's Mysteries. Tales of Magical Mastery. Episode 37. We were just talking about the critical moment when the demonic creature was about to be born. Suddenly, Liao Fengyi and Old Dao appeared and fought against the leader of the Bai Qian sect and the Black Robe Guardian. Due to the opponent's quick reaction, they couldn't find an opportunity to approach Master Wuxu's courts. Fortunately, the two of them had made careful arrangements beforehand. Liao Fengyi and Old Dao attracted the enemy's attention, allowing Ahu to take action unexpectedly. Ahu was extremely clever and knew that they couldn't delay. He immediately bid onto the Butcher God Talisman on Master Wuxu's courts. Then he swung his head, tearing the paper talisman off. According to the old man in the cave, as long as the Butcher God Talisman was removed, the Grand Array could be activated again to suppress the demonic creatures. We've described the details, but in reality, Ahu's actions happened in a split second. In the blink of an eye, he tore off the talisman and dropped it on the ground. In an instant, it seemed like time stood still in the hall. Everyone was stunned. "You're seeking death." The first one to react was the leader of the Bai Qian sect. He roared, and a black shadow flew out. He wanted to snatch back the Butcher God Talisman and stick it back on. However, just as the leader flew towards it, he abruptly stopped in midair. In a panic, the leader turned his head and found that Old Dao had firmly grabbed one of his legs. With fury reaching his forehead, the leader of the Bai Qian sect suddenly turned around and struck out with a palm accompanied by a gust of wind. Old Dao's martial arts were only average, and he couldn't dodge in time. He was fiercely struck in the chest by the leader of the Bai Qian sect. The 5 guardians under the leader were all top experts. Not to mention the strength of the leader's palm, a loud bang was heard as Old Dao was sent flying 7 to 8 meters away. His body crashed heavily into the stone wall of the hall, and with a miserable cry, Old Dao passed out. "Master Dao, are you okay?" "Master Dao." Liao Fengyi, who had been fighting the Black Robe Guardian, abandoned the confrontation and hurried over to hold Old Dao. Old Dao was bleeding from his nose and mouth, struggling to breathe, and it seemed like he was on the verge of death. "You damn bastards. I'll fight you to the end." Liao Fengyi and Old Dao had gone through life and death together during this period, and their bond was unusually deep. Seeing Old Dao in such a critical condition, Liao Fengyi's eyes turned red. Just as he was about to rush forward and fight to the death, he looked up and saw a change in the hall. Suddenly, a large amount of demonic energy gushed out from the abyss. Before long, numerous blood-red figures appeared in the dense fog. Surprisingly, several demonic creatures crawled up from the ground. Ha ha ha! The demonic creatures are born. As the demonic creatures kept crawling up, the lifeless body of Master Wuxu showed no signs of change. This made the leader of the Bai Qian sect and the Black Robe Guardian ecstatic. "From now on, only our demonic race is supreme, and I am the Demon King." Especially the leader, he was so excited that he lost his senses. Demon King. Just as he was excited, suddenly, the entire hall trembled, and a powerful force emanated from Master Wuxu's body. The body of Master Wuxu, with the Butcher God Talisman removed, suddenly emitted a myriad of golden lights. Suddenly, a more intense and dazzling golden light shot out from Master Wuxu's eyes, directly toward the abyss. This golden light seemed to contain incredible power. As soon as the demonic creatures touched it, they let out sharp screams and were burned to ashes. The demons they had summoned with great effort were quickly decimated. The leader of the Bai Qian sect, in a rage, wanted to rush forward, but the shaking of the entire hall became even more intense. Frequent showers of debris fell from the top of the underground palace. It looked like the hall was on the verge of collapse. "No one can stop me, you bastards." The leader of the Bai Qian sect became even more furious. He had spent a whole 5 years, sacrificing countless lives, to finally achieve his great goal. How could he fail at this crucial moment? He roared loudly, waved his palm, and a powerful gust of wind rushed toward Master Wuxu. He knew that at this moment, the only hope was to destroy this quartz. However, perhaps everything was destined. Just then, a massive boulder fell from the top of the underground palace, accurately hitting him. The sudden arrival of the boulder caught him off guard, and in an instant, he was knocked down to the ground by the falling rocks. The leader was smashed into a pancake with no chance of survival. The remaining few people were also in dire straits, as more and more rocks were falling, and it seemed they would be buried alive. Let's go back to the person on the stone platform. At this moment, the golden light emanating from Master Wuxu's body was getting stronger and stronger. Within the golden light, Master Wuxu seemed to come back to life. He started chanting incomprehensible spells. During the low chanting of the spell, Master Wuxu's hands gradually lifted, and a powerful force could be felt gathering in his palms. The immense power slowly converged to the center of Master Wuxu's chest. Even without the fully gathered force, the aura emanating from him put immense pressure on Liao Fengdi and the black-robed guardian. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, Liao Fengdi heard Ahu's cry behind him. It turned out that Ahu was frantically reminding him to leave the underground hall. Liao Fengdi finally reacted. If they didn't leave now, they would be buried alive. Carrying old Dao on his back, he didn't care which exit was safe and quickly chose a nearby cave to enter. After entering the cave, Liao Fengdi continued running without stopping, but he couldn't help but glance back at the hall. He saw the black-robed guardian spread his wings and fly into the air. However, his eyes were fixed on the lifeless body of the leader of the Bai Xian sect. He didn't hurry to escape. By this time, the energy gathered on Master Wuxu's body had reached its peak. With a loud roar, a tremendous force burst out. A massive beam of light shot out from Master Wuxu's corpse, shrouding the entire underground palace. The hall trembled as stones flew everywhere. Liao Fengdi didn't dare to look any longer. Rocks were falling continuously behind them, and one of the caves they passed through had been completely blocked. In the underground palace, under the impact of that tremendous force, the whole place collapsed. Soon, the falling rocks filled the hall, but could these debris successfully fill the bottomless abyss? Speaking of the entire Funyu mountain range, it was a continuous series of mountains. But at this moment, the entire mountain range suddenly trembled, and the tallest peak of the mountain, Shenyu Peak, trembled violently. Then, a massive beam of light shot out from inside the mountain, covering the entire Shenyu Peak. Suddenly, the peak of Shenyu Peak sank down. The mountain shook, and a deafening roar echoed throughout the Funyu mountain range. In a short time, the once towering Shenyu Peak became a huge depression. However, this crater was only a dozen meters deep, and it seemed to have filled the abyss of the demonic creatures. After a while, everything returned to calm, and the towering Shenyu Peak had disappeared, as if it had never existed. The people of Funyu Town felt the earth tremble, and before they could react, they found that the towering mountain had disappeared. However, no one knew what had happened. Since then, the glorious Bai Xian sect also vanished. People couldn't figure out what happened, but soon news spread of Bai Xian sect's atrocities, making the people of Funyu Town shudder in fear. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed out in the darkness of the night, and he was holding a human head in his arms. Let's set up the context here. This person would later cause Liao Fengdi endless trouble, nearly taking his life several times. Although the Bai Qian sect had been buried beneath Shenyu Peak, there were still some remnants that escaped. For example, the ancient fine demon, who could control vegetation, stayed behind and later caused the deaths of several people. However, someone with a little skill took care of him and became a savior to this place, eradicating the evil, and was hailed as a hero by everyone. But that is a story for another time.